Hi, guys. Today we are going to be talking about getting the best ROI from your Magento developer, and we have 5 steps to help you get on track with the right team. I am Dree Ziegler. I am the Director of Marketing at Human Element. I'm also a Magento Certified Solutions Specialist. Human Element is a digital agency located in Ann Arbor, so we do mostly Magento development, but we also do creative, conversion optimization, user experience. Sabra Bander is our conversion optimization specialist, and she spoke this morning, and Paul Briscoe is also here, and he's going to be speaking about development with Magento 2 tomorrow.
Hello, my name is Phaler. I am with Pentair, a client of Human Element, and we've been running an e-commerce website for about 4 years now, and we've been partnering with Human Element the whole way. They helped kind of create us and take us into the Magento world.
So first we want to kind of tackle why we're here today. We really want to give you the takeaway that your Magento team should be an extension of your merchant team. You should work together on everything from planning to goal setting, and we're going to talk through a little bit of that. So for us, that relationship works best when you're working together as a team.
Step 1 is actually finding and working to find the right developer. We believe that personality does matter, and it's really important through your selection process to find and match with the right developer. Through our RFQ process, we found Human Element and decided they were the best match for us, and a number of considerations would come into account for how to find the right developer.
So some basic considerations for finding the right developer. You want to take into account the size of the organization. You want to look at how many developers you'll be working with on a day-to-day basis, and if there's a bench of experienced developers that can help you out with more technical problems. Basically, if you're a smaller company, you might want to look at a smaller company, or you might want to look at a larger company, depending on the size of what your current organization is.
Yeah, the way we just took it down and broke it down was, yes, we are Pentair, we're a big Fortune 500 company, but there's other business units within Pentair, so we considered ourselves more of a mid-sized e-commerce platform. And yeah, we got pitched by all the big players out there, but we didn't want to get lost in the shuffle of working with a giant agency. We're looking for someone more specialized that had highly qualified developers that we were able to speak to. That's the reason why we ended up going with Human Element.
Secondly, you really want to look at personality. So who will you be working with on your team? Do you have a project manager, an account manager that you can speak to that you like? So if you're going through that RFQ or that decision-making process, you want to sit down and see if you can actually speak one-to-one with those people. And then what is the personality of the company you're working with? A lot of companies have their own personality as a group. For us, we are kind of a mid-sized boutique company, and we also like to grow with our partners. We're very friendly, problem-solving based company. So we think that appealed to the Pentair team when they were making that choice.
Another factor is the breadth of the organization, or the size of the company, right? Does this company have a number of specializations, just specialists? How many developers do they have? 1 or 2? Do they have front-end, back-end developers? Where are they located, and how do they kind of run their organization that way?
And then you might want to take a look at some other services. So if you're looking for a company that just does development, maybe it's fine just to have a couple developers and a project manager. Or do you want to look at a full digital agency that can help you with other services like digital marketing and AdWords and CRO, all of those different pieces as well. There's one more thing we missed. So the other thing you want to look at is certifications. So I know that we're a Magento 1 certified partner. We're also Magento 2 certified. Depending on what your platform is, that you want to make sure that your company and your developer that you're working with has those certifications that kind of show that they know their stuff. Sorry, go ahead. And then some technical considerations. What is their development process? So they should be able to articulate to you the development process they're using, and you should be able to know, is that going to work for you? Is the number of deployments that they're willing to do for you on a weekly or monthly basis, does that work for the amount of work that you have? We're going to talk a little bit more about the development process that we use later.
One big thing, too, is access to the actual developers. The people doing work on your website, you want to be able to talk to. Because a lot of times they have their own ideas, and they know the platform better than we do. But sometimes it's good to be able to talk to a local developer. Does the company offshore their work, or is it all based in the U.S.? For us, Human Element's technical team and development team is very involved in our process, no matter everything we do. So we always come to them with a goal or an idea, and we're able to speak with the project managers and with the developers so we can all come up with the best goal possible for the company.
And then finally, technical considerations for the company as a whole. So it goes without saying, you should not be doing work on a live site. You should have a development and a staging environment. You should have Git repository or some sort of code repository where you're managing code. Those sorts of pieces should be in place, and they should be able to speak to them when in that process of choosing the developer.
Step 2, communication. We all need to communicate on both sides, and communication is the #1 key to get your message across. If you can't communicate effectively, there's going to be miscommunication based on your messages.
So again, your development agency should be an extension of your team, so that means that you should be talking to them on a regular basis, and that you should be talking to them more than just like infrequent emails. First of all, you want to identify a primary point of contact for both sides. That seems obvious, but sometimes it's important to know who your team should be speaking to. When they have an issue or when they want a new feature implemented.
One thing that I enjoy are the weekly calls. Yes, I know we talk about the weather for everything in the current situation. I'm sure everyone else is the same victim of that. As you always start the call off with an awkward, hey, how's it going? How's what's going on in your world? But also it's a weekly touch base for us. So we're able to talk through a list of agenda items to really make sure everyone's on this exact same page of all the items going on. And it's really a good time where, you get to learn about what happened in the person's weekend, what's going on in their lives. So you're getting that personal touch along with able to knock out certain tasks that are important.
And then one other thing about those calls, the calls are nice to actually speak through problems so that you make sure you're documenting things in writing, emails, agendas, notes. Obviously, those things are important so that you can always reference them later. Other tools that we use, Instant Messenger, it might sound like a pain, but for us it has been really helpful to use things like Hangouts or Slack with our clients because it allows us to actually speak to them, get quick answers, not have to schedule time 3 days from now to have that call, but to keep things moving internally.
I know we're all sad that AIM is now going away. I know I am, but now with Slack and other communication messages, it's still great for a client to be able to send a direct message to the company and say, hey, what's going on with this? It saves time on a phone call, saves time on an email. We're all doing 1,000 things every day, so it's great to be able to have that one quick message, and it starts from there.
Another thing you should work on is your emergency response time, both from the developer side and understanding what that is from the client side. For us, we actually provide documentation on what that emergency response time is going to be when the site goes down, if there's a checkout issue, something that would trigger us to basically ring the bell and go and help them. We actually work with Pentair's hosting partner so that we can work directly to get problems solved quickly. But just communicating that and putting processes in place before those things happen really helps to streamline it and speed things up to get it fixed. So avoiding communication pitfalls, I don't know if you all have seen this slide, but I think this is brilliant because everybody has these people at their companies that are doing different roles, and it basically shows how many different ways you can interpret a new feature or customization that somebody wants to build.
You didn't know I wanted a tire swing this whole time?
I do now. So don't skimp on the communication tools. In order to avoid those pitfalls, we use things like ticketing systems, which seems obvious, but if you have a developer that's not using those tools or that can't track on hours or give you reports very easily, that might make it more difficult to communicate.
One big thing that we've kind of learned together is wireframes, right? I know a lot of times the developer was the one kind of creating wireframes for the customer, but we've kind of taken that step on a two-way street where sometimes where I have an idea and I can't constrain it as well as I want to, I'll end up building a wireframe, giving it to the human element, and they're able to take that and say, actually, Sean, this is a great wireframe, but in order to fit Magento in our processes, it needs to look like this. But at least starts the conversation, so I'm not asking them to take what I'm trying to tell them and put it on a piece of paper. I'm able to start the conversation, so we're not just second-guessing it at what everyone wants.
And I think it's obvious also that, it's much easier to do changes on paper, on a wireframe, or in a Creative Comp than it is once you're, down the line and you've developed something and they're like, that's not quite what we were hoping to do. So using those things like wireframes and Creative Comps and user interface specification docs really allows customers to visualize what you're trying to do, and everybody's kind of on the same page. So step 3, and I think that this is something that not all developers will do, but we really take pride in this. We try to set our goals together and collaborate on what the vision is and in roadmaps for the year. So we have implemented yearly roadmap exercises. So we'll get together with the key stakeholders from their team and from our team, and we'll put together a plan for the 4 quarters of the year. For example, this year, Pentair wanted to update their site to HTTPS, full site to HTTPS, and then some major updates to their ERP functionality, as well as releasing this whole new product line and redesigning their homepage. So that's a lot of stuff to pack into a year for the team, and we wanted to make sure we had time for all of it.
A lot of the time with us, we do have quarterly and yearly bigger goals that we're very transparent about our sales numbers and what opportunities we're trying to hit for that next year, and we share them with our development company. So we feel like we're all in this skin in the game together, right? So if we're down on our sales for the next month, we got to all come together as a team and say, hey, what are we doing to fix our sales? Hey, our conversion rate's down this month. Maybe we should do some more conversion rate optimization. What can we do together as a team to grow this thing? So it's not just us barking orders at human element. It's us coming together and saying, hey, let's grow this thing for the betterment of our company.
And then one thing we also work to do is holiday planning and big marketing pushes together. So for instance, this year, Pentair's not a big holiday company, they're mostly B2B, but some of our partners are doing, they'll do an email marketing push, and we are kind of know when they're doing larger pushes to their customers so that we can be kind of on hand to make sure their sites are stable. TV show appearances, we've had sites that we weren't prepared for somebody to be on the Wendy Williams show. So we have to have those communication lines ready so that we can know and maintain the site in those instances. So development process, I'm going to speak a little bit about this. You should be on board with the development process, and as the dev partner, you should be able to articulate what your development process is to the client. So for us, and this might be a little hard to read, this is our main development process, and we actually do this with both small tasks in a small way, even on a ticket, as well as all the way through a large implementation from scratch to a Magento 2 site. So this first step, planning and design, is what I kind of want to focus on. And I'm going to give you a few important highlights of that process, and then Sean can speak to a real-life example of how we've been able to do this well. So first, your team should always be able to answer the question, the development team, always be able to answer the question, why are we doing this and who does this functionality serve? This allows us to understand, so maybe there's an idea that's brought to the table, but we don't know necessarily why we're doing it. We try to make sure that we do that planning process, even for small maintenance tasks, so that everybody's on the same page. And then your developer also needs to understand what the overall goals are, because they might have a better way to do something that you're trying to do. So you don't always need to bring the architected solution to your developer. You just maybe want to bring an idea and then collaborate on how to best do it. The best development teams are not order takers, we're collaborators. So then implementation, and specifically on the merchant side, it's important not to basically let your development team just go develop that and come back when it's done. You should do incremental check-ins to make sure that everything is working the way that you intended and that you're moving roadblocks out of the way for your development team. And then in terms of QA, you should be doing QA as well as your developer. Help them to understand some test cases or test scenarios that maybe they wouldn't know without your help. And then code deployments, this is where an instant messenger system really helps. So be available for testing, identify issues, like we speak often on launches in terms of instant messenger.
So a quick example we have to show here is Pentair built a $4 million research and demonstration facility, and it was a huge sales enablement tool for our business. But it was very hard because it was in Florida, so we can't expect all of our potential customers to fly down to Florida to see this thing in person. So we had the idea of, hey, let's bring this to life for customers to see. And like we said before, I came up with an idea, and luckily my idea was, hey, let's use a Google Street View API, and what can Magento developers, what can human element do? And luckily we were able to work with Paul and Sabra and some of their team to say, hey, that's where their real brain came out, because we didn't say, hey, we want to do this. We said, hey, we have this idea. How can you bring it to life? And completely built in Magento, they built a complete custom site that gives the customer the ability to walk through the actual building with product hotspots, and features that we're able to point out, all based in through Magento. And then there's also things like, live webcam. We have water stat quality information, so a potential customer could see how their site and what our products can do for them. But also in a relationship with Human Element, it shows the example of, hey, we have this idea, and how can you guys improve on this idea? And working with their very talented developers, they're able to run with it and kind of create something that kind of helped revolutionize the fish farming industry. It's really not a technical industry, but what the combination of our ideas and their kind of brains and how they can work with the Magento, it was a real huge successful piece for us. So step 5, measuring success. We always have to make sure we're creating goals and trying to live up to those goals, but if we don't hit those goals, how do we measure our success in reaching those goals? And then, kind of the same thing as tracking on those goals, right? So here we have an example of, Human Element supplies us with a monthly stats report just based off some of the stuff we do, but we share success all the time. Anytime we have any success, we like to, showcase that up to leadership. And so even though our leadership isn't directly involved with Human Element, they're not on the phone talking to them every day, we still share and they're fully aware of who Human Element is because of the success we've been able to have online. And so it's a good kind of collaboration tool where, hey, they're all in it together with us and we all share the success together.
And then with that said, I think it's also important that as a developer, you note where improvements can be made. So not every project is going to go perfectly. So own the mistakes and be clear on how to learn from them and improve your team across the board. We do a thing called post-action reviews when we have an event that we want everybody on the team to learn from, and that's both good and bad. And we take a look at how we could have done better, and we share some of those insights with the client as well. So those help to make sure that when you make a mistake or you maybe could have done something better, everybody on the team is learning from it and you're all getting better together. And then another thing that we're implementing as well is to create and review dashboards of key performance indicators. So we're using tools like Google Data Studio or the Google Analytics dashboard to show those key metrics that we talk about in road mapping and quarterly meetings. So maybe this year they really want to focus on mobile users. They really want to focus on a different channel for revenue. Those indicators we put together and we share those with their team so that we can all be on the same page about if we're hitting that goal or if we need to work a little harder on it. So again, the most important piece is that your developer should be an extension of your team, and we actually really try to live that and do that every day with our clients.
So we're kind of just recapping quickly, what did we learn, right? Developer search, find the right match that works for you. Personality is a big factor, and in order to be able to talk freely and openly and communicate with the development team is what's really going to help in your success.
And then communication, and that includes both on the developer and on the merchant side, being invested in that relationship and making sure you're clear on what your goals are and how you're communicating each day.
And setting those goals together so that the development team takes a stake in your company and you all kind of work together as one in order to improve the success of the company.
And then the development process, really key part for us is that planning process, making sure that all the requirements are documented, the user stories are documented. For us, that's really the key part that makes everything else go smoothly.
And lastly, measure the success, right? When you have a success, show it to the world. Learn from your failures, fail fast, and win together. And then report up on all the good things you're doing.
Guys have any questions? We have a couple more minutes. Okay,
well, great. Thanks for your time, everyone.
Do you want to go back? Standards actually there's an inclusion in there if you have something like a new feature request or if you have something that's like a problem on the website, it kind of triggers different responses from our side. So in an ideal situation, your project manager maybe is available to answer that quick question, but if they're not, there's an understanding on the client side that it might take up to 4 hours for just a response to that, or it might take, however long that response is, depending on what the request is. Generally, we try to be faster than that. Generally, like in the best engagements we have with clients, we're kind of just in it with them, if they have a quick question. So if we can't though, it does happen occasionally where you have to be like, we'll get back to you at this date because we can't do it until then.
Yeah, I guess that's what I try to do because it's like the same thing. Like you feel compelled, but it's instant
Right.
you want to answer, but at the same time, it's super slow.
Right. And with some of our smaller clients, we don't use instant messenger because they don't have enough time in their contract for us to spend time with them on that close of detail level. We wait until we have that weekly meeting to talk about all of their issues. But like I said, this is in an ideal situation when you're working best with a developer and you're getting things done quickly. Those quick responses are really helpful.
Yeah, for a client side, it's good because Human Element has highly experienced project managers, so it's not just a task guy, right? We have a problem. It doesn't, let me take the task for you and go back to the system. Where a Human Element, their project managers are able to answer the question sometimes if it's an admin question or whatnot. And then also because we have a direct line to the developer, sometimes I could just quickly send a message to the developer and say, hey man, I broke the site, how do you fix it? And they can just go in there really quickly. So it's not this long line of task systems if they're kind of quick fixes.
Yeah, no, and then, I guess it's also a question, but I follow up to that was, but like say like for me it's like I'm a smaller agency than that, right? So
Right.
do you charge specifically time? Like you say, hey, we're gonna build in chat time into this contract, or do you just say for a certain level of time?
Oh, yeah. So we do, we have a certain amount of time that they expect that's project management time or communication time, a meeting time. And usually for us, it's about 20 to 25%. It's not insignificant. So like the client has to understand that some of it, in order to get to that part where you're a part of the team, talking to each other is important. And we're an agency. It's how it has to be. So that number is something that's usually kind of explained in this, or should be explained in the sales process. Like expect to see this amount of time on top of your actual development time that's meetings and PM time. And for us, that fit in terms of like personality, that matters because on the developer side, because if there's a client that's like, well, I don't want to pay for PM time, we kind of are like, well, maybe this is not a great fit for us as a client because it's not going to be, no one's going to be happy at the end of this, So those are considerations in terms of personality that we actually take as well internally. Anyone else? Yes? Good RFP, like the response side of it. I would say the best advice I would have for a client is like get inside knowledge, obviously, if you can. Like, what are you really looking for?
Try to understand their business more. We get a lot of RFPs where they just take the homepage banner off our website and be like, oh look, we know your business. But if you try to get try to ask the right question to get a little more inside information, to kind of tailor the whole personalization aspect. Try to get the content that kind of speaks to us a little bit better.
We don't do a ton, honestly, we don't do a ton of them because they are super time consuming and we don't always have, we get people that offer them to us, but we don't have the insight. And a lot of times we see that there's somebody that's kind of already chosen that it's written for, and we don't have all that inside information. Sometimes that's us. So we have some of that information and we'll respond to those, but we don't do a ton of them for that reason, actually. Anyone else? Thanks, Hart. Oh, yeah, one more.
If you're working with a developer, you're in the middle of the process of going to a Magento 2 site conversion.
Sure.
How you hear your developers being offshore or local in the United States, you hear that, oh, this is the best developer, they're certified, blah, 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 but they end up getting thrown down to more junior developers. How do you know that the code is clean, good, and problem-free until it's still sort of it's too late and you're running and you're seeing loads lag speed time? How do you check up on developers' work during a site?
So our developers, we don't offshore any of our work. So that's probably the thing one is a bunch of work isn't being done before we get back to review it. And then we have, I think, a really strong team of developers who've been doing Magento work for a long time, and they do incremental code reviews pretty frequently in that build process. We actually do code reviews on small maintenance tasks as well. Just pick one out of the hat, make sure that that developer is learning and growing. You know, we actually try to get our developers certified as well so that they learn how to do all those things correctly. I'm not sure that totally answers your question, other than like having our leadership, who's really good developers, having them engaged in ongoing code reviews seems to help.